Hi guys, I'm Derek. Today I'm going to talk you through how I do my editorial editing. The image that I have here is a really nice one. I got it from a place called fixthephoto.com. Awesome place to get a couple of images to practice retouching on. What I'm editing here with is Capture One Pro. The version is 11, it's the latest one, it's really awesome. And I'm going to talk you through my whole process here. So we start generally with white balance. I kind of go by feel. If I want a colder image, obviously go to the colder side of the spectrum. If I want a warmer image, I go to the warmer side. In this image, I want it a little bit colder. I'm not liking the magenta, so I'm going to pull that out as well. About there, and I'm happy. Let's tweak it a little bit. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Then I think we can bring up the shadows a little bit. If you guys don't have Capture One, don't feel too bad. You can still do all of this in Lightroom and in Camera Raw. I just prefer Capture One. Personally, I feel that the file rendering is much better here. It can be purchased at Phase One's website. I think it's $299 once off, and then yours. I wouldn't really change highlights. If you change highlights, all it really do is going to affect the lamp. Let me show you. See how the lamp changes? Nothing really to work with there. By lifting the shadows, I feel that I've lost a little bit of contrast in the image, so I'm just going to bump that up a tiny bit. I like it. So this method I used was pretty much adapted from a retoucher by the name of Jordan Hartley. Boy's Got Talent. Yeah. So from here, I go here and I export my variants, and happy with that. I want to change this to practice images. We'll call this YouTube Retouch 1. Then my file format is PSD because I want it open in Photoshop. 16-bit, colors fine, resolution 300 pixels per inch, scale, Photoshop. There we go, everything's happy. Export. It's going to do what it needs to do. It's going to send me over to Photoshop as soon as it's finished exporting. Okay, great. Here's our image in Photoshop. How cool is that? Alright, so when in Photoshop, the first thing I do is I create a duplicate of my background, because I don't like working destructively, and if I do something that really needs to come all the way back, I've still got a background image. Awesome. So I start with a new layer that I do my healing and cloning on. So let's call this fix. Great. So I work predominantly with the healing brush, and I work with cloning. So we go through it and let's take a look what really needs a little bit of love. I see a couple of things I want to change here. You always want to sample pretty close to the texture that you've got, otherwise you start introducing weird textures in here and it's really not fun to try and get out again. This I'll be leaving because that's a light issue. I'll be fixing with dodge and burn. In the bigger spectrum you can do all of this pretty much with dodge and burn, but I don't really feel it has a place to go that far. When you're doing high-end beauty retouching, sure, then frequency separation, dodge and burn, all that stuff will work for you. Let's clean this up a little bit more. Clean that up. Clean this up a little bit. Whoopsie. And don't be afraid to undo, which is Control Z. For Mac users, Control is Command and Alt is Option. I'm working on a Windows system right now, so when I say these things, I mean, oopsie, not happy with that. Let's go over to the clone stamp because it's a textual issue. Right down, flow relatively low, and let's just clean this up. probably clean this up as well. Healing brush. Get pretty small so you don't affect too much area with your healing brush. You just want to try and clean it up as tight as possible. There we go. Generally tend to work on a strand at a time when I do this. I know it sounds laborious, but the results really make the difference. You don't want it too perfectly clean cut. It'll look kind of copy and paste-ish, and you don't really want that. Let's take a look what we've got here. I want to clean up this hair here. I just don't like this at all. Okay, so let's start. For the bigger part, I believe we can use the healing brush. This is a bit more of a blanket paint. Oopsie, a little bit too far on that one. Gonna get it pretty close to the edge, but not on the edge, because if you are used to using the healing brush, you will notice when you get too close to an edge, it really gives you a really terrible result. Sorry for being a bore at the moment, guys. I just need to get this done. I'm gonna get rid of this as well. When sampling an edge, try put your healing brush edge on an edge. It just generally cleans it up a lot better. Get that out the way, get it away. Come back and fix that piece with a clone stamp. I don't want it too perfect, so I'm going to leave these hairs here. Maybe take this one out. Way too big a brush at the moment. Back onto an edge. We're going to sample from an edge. There we go. Clean edge there. I don't like what's happening here, so let's clean that up. Let's see what we're looking like. Not loving it too much, so I'm going to come in with my clone stamp just to fix the color a little bit. A relatively low flow, just to ease this into the wall a bit better. Like that. Okay, back here we had the problem with this hair that came right into the belt buckle, so I'm going to clean that away, sampling relatively close, and I am happy with that. Great. The next thing I want to tackle is this wheel. Not loving it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go to a lasso tool. I'm going to come around quite broad around it. I'm going to come back up, and then I'm going to let it go right there. So when you let it go, it creates a straight line between your first and last point. By doing this, I can isolate that it only affects here. So I'm going to go at this with a healing brush. And I want to try and keep it going on from here. Sorry, spot healing brush, wrong tool. I'm going to select that. I'm going to bring it over, just slowly blend it in a bit. Okay, that's not working, so let's go to our clone stamp. Healing brush doesn't always work. Sometimes you just need to swap out and hope for the best. Slowly paint that in, just to match the surroundings. happy with that. I don't like this here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this out. But this is quite a intricate shape that I'm going to use here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over to the pen tool and just select it nicely. That'll do around that selection, like that, like that. I just need a broad. Sorry, I lost my thing there. Just make a broad selection around it mostly, just so that we don't affect the couch. Same process as before. I'm going to take the clone stamp and I'm going to try work this into a free-flowing matching wall. Without trying to repeat any patterns. Now, the problem with a hard edge like this is you tend to, once it's gone away, pick up some lines along the edge so that you can fix with your healing brush. Just get it blending a little bit better. Here I'm not too happy, so I'm going to just clean it up a tiny bit more. Here we go. Happier. And I am rather happy with that, so I just want to take a last look around the clothes. Is there anything I don't like here? Ooh, her hand is full of marks. Let's clean this up. Okay, back to the healing brush. Let's go. Looks like she's got in a bit of a fight. The cat. Let's go clean up all this. Shame, I'd love to know what happened to her. Maybe she's got one of those cats that demand petting, and the second you do, they just bite you. Who knows? If you hear the clicking, it's because I'm using a mouse. I will switch over to the Wacom Nano. I prefer this part up until the end of this part with the mouse, and then I'll switch over to the Wacom. Looks a wee bit better. I can fix these luminosity value differences shortly. Let's just take a look around, see if there's anything else that we don't like that is distracting. The only thing I don't really like is this one line here, if you can see it. So I just want to make it slightly bigger, and let's make this line disappear. like that a bit more. Awesome. You'll find I zoom in and out a lot, simply because you can see a better picture the more you zoomed out. Alright, I'm happy with that. Let's see. And that's the changes that we've made. Awesome. So from here, we go and we start a little bit of a dodge and burn. Alright, so my dodge and burn consists of two curves, like that. It would be my dodge. Invert the mask with Control I or Command I. Create another one for burn curves. Down would be a burn. Convert or invert that mask. Group them, and I call them dodge and burn. The reason I do this is I just like to keep tidy files. Makes it easier for finding faults if you have any. You'll see that by inverting them it makes no difference if I have that on or off. So I'd like to start with the dodge and burn, and now I'll go over to my Wacom, and I want to start up here by her face and just start correcting some of these tonal value differences. I do that by going to brush, be on short key, black and white. Because you're working on a black mask, you would obviously want it white to paint it in. If you went a little bit too far, you just invert it to black and then you paint it back out again. My flow I keep generally very low. I'd rather do a few more passes and have it neater than quite hard and then just go too far. So let's start. Picking up little value differences and always changing my brush size. I use the square bracket keys to make it larger and smaller. I'm working with a relatively soft brush here. If you have a hard brush, it just looks terrible. You can really start getting into high detail when you start doing beauty images and stuff like that. Then you really get into there. Where you'd start correcting things like this, where you start doing local dodge and burns, micro dodge and burns. It's a much less destructive way to correct flaws like this. Some guys are adamant that you should work in the direction of the light. I kind of just wing it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just to show you what that did quickly. Just fixed out that. Now over here, I see I've painted a little bit too much, so it's gone into a highlight there. So what I do is use X to invert the brush and paint it back slowly, just to balance out those two edges a bit. See, it's also a highlight, so I'm going to go over to the burn side. Oh, that's why it's not working. And then we swap back to white. Sorry, I just had a blonde moment there. No offense to any blondes. You're all beautiful. And we get a bit of balance here. There we go. See a couple of things that I wanted to change in the healing, so I'd go back there, back to the healing brush. Oops. Back to the healing brush. Choose the size. Could be fixed there. That can be fixed there. Can be fixed there. Obviously you don't want to go too far and end up with that porcelain skin look, unless that's really what you want to go for. Then you just keep doing it. Let's see how we're looking here. Great. A couple of more things like there, here. I just want to soften out this transition here and here So I'm going to fast forward the video until that part. Better. Just take a look at the young lad here, see if there's anything we need to change on him. Got a little bit of flakiness in his fur. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Paws are fine. Let's just take a look at the couch here. See a couple of marks here that I want to sort out. So, let's go to our healing brush. I'm on the wrong layer. Sorry guys. Oopsie. Oh, it's just my brush. I think I'm relatively happy with that. So, from here, I remember said we had a color issue here in the hands. So I actually want to sort out this red quickly. And how I'd go about doing that is I would create a hue saturation mask. There we go. Selecting only the red channels. There we go. You can do that by clicking this and clicking red, or you can go onto here, click reds, click the sample tool, and it will also adjust your reds. And how I isolate this is I go bump my saturation all the way up. It's going to look ridiculous, as you can see. But what I want to do, isolate that, and how I do that is bring these sliders in. So I've gone too far. Where it's only select the hand. There we go. Now bring this one in. And I only want to select those reds that were problematic. Bring it out a little bit. Awesome. So once you've got that, you can return this all the way down to 0. And to counter this, you pull it away from the red slide. So slowly bring it up till it matches a little bit. Much better. So it's affected her legs as well. So that was in that color range as well. I'm not going to complain because I was going to do the legs anyway. Sorry about the sniffing, it's flu season. I'm relatively happy with this. So from here I would go on. So let's just call this hands and legs so I know what I'm doing. Okay, from here I'd do a clone stamp visible layer. So what that is Control Shift Alt E or Command Shift Option E. What that does is it takes all the layers below it and makes one layer from it. This is my base layer, so all my color is going to be done off of this base layer. I always make it a smart object simply because I'm about to create a clarity slider on it, and if I don't convert to a smart object, I won't be able to change it if I've pushed it too far. So we just wait for that. There we go. So my next step, filter, camera raw filter, and I literally only change my clarity. Bump it up quite high. About there should be good. Let's just see what it does at 25. It's a little bit too much. Let's just check the difference. Yeah, 25 is a little bit too much, so I'm going to leave it at 20. Let it go from there. Then I will adjust my vibrance. Just feel that's a little bit too vibrant, and I'd like to bring it back a little bit. The degree of which you pull it back is all up to you. From here on out, this is your personal preference. So let's pull it back just a touch. Maybe too much there. Let's set it a happy 5. From there, we will be doing a color contrast curve. So curves. Now because this is a slightly warmer image, I want to keep it on that side. So I'm going to take my red curve and I'm going to make it a little bit warmer. If you pull it this way, you start making it cooler, as you can see. I want this on the warmer side for now. We might change our mind later on. In your greens, just a standard S curve. The blues the same, standard S curve. Slide. So you see that I've added a whole bunch of red, but I've also added a bit of contrast into the image. Now I have to go and balance these midtones out. This is also where this comes up to you. So what I would do is go color balance, and I want to correct that red first. So here's my reds. To correct this, I'd add in cyans. I'll bring it back until I'm happy with the colors. I'm very happy with that. Right, next I'm just going to check how this goes. I like the greener feel to this. Happy. Let's see what happens here. I'm not loving that. I'm liking more the cooler tone. Let's see. I'm liking that. Might adjust this curve here on the reds. a little bit more into the image. Let's see what it looks like on that side. No, definitely not. So red's up a little bit too much. Back a tiny bit. Do that. See if we can get a bit more cyan going in the image. Definitely lending itself to the cooler, especially with this orange. So we've got quite the warm tones going on here, and then the rest of the image quite cold. Just my personal preference. You guys could do what you feel like. This is just where the tweaks come in. You play this by ear. Awesome. I like it a lot. Okay, from there I'm going to create another clone stamp layer. Once again, I'm going to create a smart object just so that whatever we do can be reversed if needed. Fantastic. So filter again, another camera raw filter. I just want to play with these, just check if maybe leaving something on the table. Like that a little bit. So got the greens going. Like that. A little bit more warmth in it. Just check before and after. So I've gone from a cold to quite a warm image. I kind of like the warmer image. Exposure I feel is fine, contrast is fine, highlights I'm not going to worry about, shadows I don't have any issues with, white tape. So that's it, I literally just changed the white balance. There we go. From that I'm going to go filter, noise, add a little bit of noise. Always add 2%, this is just my personal thing, and make sure it's on Gaussian and monochromatic, otherwise it's going to look like you were shooting this at a high ISO and you've got noise everywhere. So let's just show you what it looks like. There we go. That's it.